Last question.
I really like the panel, but one thing that I've been missing is we're in Holland. I don't see any migrant organization member on the panel. So what are the NGOs doing with the migrant organizations when we are talking about remittances? And somebody from Oxfam, who's the only NGO here, give us this answer.
Migrant organizations, the Diaspora Forum for Development, MIND, are the organizers of event.
So what Doris is saying is that direct participation of the migrant organizers providing a forum where the topic will be discussed.
Can I just add that? Because actually being an edified of the IDB, the main discussion was also that, and you're absolutely right. Where are the migrant organizations? But I can tell you from when you try to bring them to the table, in many cases, I'm going to tell you the pros and cons, but in many cases it's who do you bring? And I've done that with Latin America and try to bring one Mexican hometown association to the table, and you create a riot if you bring one and not 350 others, for instance. This is a practical issue, but politically with many implications. And in many cases, and this is actually a mea culpa for in developing institutions, sometimes there's some sort of intimidation that happened for many years, where they don't feel like they really belong that and they don't want. But the other, and this is where I would give you all the right, is yes, in many cases from the development institutions, there's this paternalistic thing that I know better, you would not, as a hometown association, comprehend the issues we're discussing because it's above you. There's also that opinion. But what I want to say through by this comment is just that there's both ways difficulties when you actually do the step as a development institution to try to promote the inclusion of hometown association or migrant organizations. You have this issue. It's not that easy, basically. It's not that they're crowding at the door trying to be there. You really, the communication channels are not that open, basically. It's you. Every for the last years, every conference that I participated, I always do the statement, it's their money. Basically, it's their money, and they should be talking about that. Here is the main discussions, and mainly for regional banks, is provide them more options to use their money. So it's, yes, indeed, you're absolutely right. It's their money, and when you're talking about philanthropy of hometown associations, on how to use it, how to help them, they should definitely be seated at the table. What I'm saying, I'm not contradicting you.
Before we close this debate or the discussion, I would like to ask or request our panelists, speakers, to say in a short, clear, very concise sentence, what can they recommend to this conference?
Well, I think this is a very diverse audience, and different people have different roles to play. But I think that if we can find a way to replicate this sort of experience, where there's a lot of shared experience in the room and different assets and organizational abilities, and really find mechanisms to continue the learning and sharing process, but do it in less cost, more cost efficient and cost effective ways. That would be. So I'm really saying, create the context and the space and the incubation for innovation.
And basically, I would like to add that, but also I would like to thank you for inviting us. And one thing is, when you've done many of these conferences, at some point, or you organize them, sometimes you can feel that there's a lot of redundancy or the same things are said. And I actually end up at some point being a believer of that, and actually wondering of the relevance of such events. But the only thing that I always forgot is that the audience is never the same. And even though the messages can be the same, the audience not being the same, I see there's new interest and new things happening because you repeated the same thing but just in another location. So dissemination of this, the messages are not extensive, so you cannot write a whole book about it. It could be summarized in some bullet points, and I think we mentioned them today. but understand that this is a multi-stakeholder topic where it's not just remittances and hometowns associations that can deal with all the issues. It's really all the stakeholders here. It's very important to diversify the audience. The more diversified the audience is, the better. And I think that was just mentioned. So I would like to thank for the invitation to this event and actually for the promotion of such events to continue. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to use this opportunity to make clear that the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very much aware of the relevance of migration to development. That's the reason why we are preparing a paper for our Parliament that's going to be public. It's going to be published in several weeks probably. Also, we are very much aware of the existence of migrant organizations, and we are trying to establish contacts on a regular basis. Especially my colleague Paul Gosselink is in charge of maintaining this contact, and there are like annual meetings with migrant organizations in order to get inputs for our policy. So I think that's a difference between several years ago. I think we are much more aware of the existence of migrant organizations and trying to get inputs from you. And I very much appreciate Doris and Leila and all the others who have been involved in organizing this event, because I think it helps in establishing a better relationship, and also the cocktail that we're going to have is for that purpose, I think.
I think I'll stick to my four recommendations for migrants and their organizations to educate themselves more about development, not only about the development goals, but in general, to make development accountable, make governments accountable for the achievement of development. Three, to try to replicate or to make your development goals compatible with the overall development goals. And to establish partnerships or to promote the adoption of tools that leverage remittances for development. And I think those are, basic steps. Thank you.
Announcements. All the papers, presentation of this conference, you can to call the one who should really be we should really be very thankful for organizing this conference. Doris Alfafara is the consultant of COS Utrecht, who did a lot of work in preparing this. And on behalf of the organization COS Utrecht in cooperation with Oxfam Novib, she would be giving something to our speakers, and a very Dutch way to thank our speakers for their contribution today. And so before Doris takes the floor, I would like to thank everyone who attended this conference, all of you, especially our speakers. Let's give a big hand for Doris.
Thank you, and thank you for all your input. And I would like to give this to all our speakers. This is a very typical Dutch cookie. And if you finish these cookies, you can make a hole on this and just we noem het in Nederlands spaarpot and piggy bank for your remittances. Thank you, Manuel.
But don't keep them so long there.
Thank you, your
Correction, that wasn't for migrant remittances, but for migrant capital.